conducting 2 items of business only, and that is approval of invoice for recent delivery of fuel, and to discuss the temporary closure plan for submission to the FAA, and embedded within that document on pages 6, 7, 8, and 9 is the contract with Summit Motorsports Park. Both of those are, all of these items are potential action items. First item will be the approval of the fuel bill. Mr. Arnold, would you just quickly describe what that fuel bill is for?
Yep, we did purchase 1,000 gallons of Jet A. It was delivered on Monday. That brings our inventory back up to 1,700, which is a comfortable level, and we'll see how long that lasts.
Okay, and that bill is then a total net cost of $3.95.2 a gallon.
Correct.
And our current Jet A price is
$5.25 a gallon.
So
that's what current retail market rate is.
So our margin is what, $1.05 roughly?
Yep.
Okay. We don't sell much Jet A, but it's their availability if airplanes in the area need it. Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the fuel bill invoice?
So moved.
All right, Mr. Franken has a motion. Who's second? Waller Cook is a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. We welcome Nadia Casper to our meeting, and the reason is we'd like just to have her present when we discuss the contract and to see if she has any comments on the contract, whether it needs any modification, adjustments. It's basically the same contract that it has been for 11, 10, I believe, 9. But the FAA, and we'll get into that detail and a little more, has required us to split the fee out into 2 components, and we'll talk more specifically why that is. But first, before we get to that, just a little bit of background information to remind people of the history here. Back of what we did. Back in October, we had October 13th, a meeting at Summit Motorsports Park with Mr. Bader, Mr. Silcox, Ellen Heinz, and myself to talk. It was basically a review of the 2011 closures and to discuss our results and what we might do to proceed for the future. Okay. And it was decided that we would submit a request to the FAA. That was discussed at the October board meeting, and the minutes will support that. That we basically came to the agreement at that meeting from a procedure perspective that we would request the exact same closure procedures and process that we had conducted in 2011, because they had proven to be safe, effective, cost-effective, easy to implement, and we saw no reason to change them. So our letter, there was a follow-up letter, there were 2 letters that were sent to the FAA, copies to the commissioners, dated the 21st of October, which both were, one was a review of the closure meeting, and the second then was a letter which specifically requested for 2012 approval of the same procedures, and we requested a response to be returned to us no later than November 23rd. As it turned out, the government took its time. Took more than the 30 days we requested. It took over 60 days to come back to us with a response to this request. Okay, that meeting was held January 12th in Ellen Heinz's office. Mr. Silcox was there, Mr. Frankenfield was there, Ellen Heinz was there, I was there, Sue Schulk from the Displays office at the Great Lakes region of the FAA was there, John Mayfield from the Detroit Airport's district office was there, and Alex Erskine was there. Okay, and JW stopped in at the end of the meeting. The essence of that meeting was the opening statement, this is doable. which was basically a statement from the FAA that they did not see any barriers to the use of the 2011 plan in 2012. However, they did deliver it to us, and those board members got either by hand delivery, JW, or the rest of you by email, a list of documentation and what are basically compliance requirements. Compliance requirements that we had to either include in the written document or comply with. And there are 21 points that are compliance requirements. Okay, let me just see what my notes are on the summary that I sent you. Okay, that was attachment, PDF attachment A, was a copy of the requirements. Okay, and I'm just going to go through and quickly read the summary of the requirements. A, the charge for the use of the airport must be broken down into two components, a facility use fee and a service fee. See proposed contract, that's attachment B in the emails, and that's what I sent to you. Okay. B, some additional signage at the point where vehicle traffic exits the Summit Motorsports parking lot and enters the airport property to inform patrons that this access to the airport is for this event only and that they are assuming the risk of doing so. There's a statement in there about waiver of liability. C, a filing of an online electronic form, FAA 7460, which essentially is a notice of the modification of airspace due to temporary closure of the airport which affects IFR and other planned traffic. D, a formal inspection of the airport after each closure using an FAA checklist and the submission of the inspection report to the Detroit Airport's district office within 48 hours after each closure. E, the submission of an up-to-date list of airport tenants and major users. F, a meeting of airport tenants and major users prior to the temporary closures, one meeting only, to gather their input and concerns. G, an improved process to gather airport user input after the closures, such as the use of an electronic survey tool. And H, some additional compliance language supplied by the FAA regarding impact on the airport facility, operations, and environment resulting from the temporary closures. So tonight, in my opinion, the only significant issues for this board to discuss and act upon is the proposed contract between Airport and Summit Motorsports Park, that's pages 6 through 9 of the draft plan, and the submission of the draft plan to the FAA by February 1. Now, let me detour just a moment, explain why that date is important. We are being included in what is a pilot, the development of a pilot program, a pilot national policy on the use, non-aeronautical use of federally obligated airports. This is a controversial subject that's been going through the FAA for years, okay? They really don't have a consistent national policy. I'm going to ask Don if he wants to make any observations about this meeting. And so we are in this pilot, which includes another airport in Florida and another airport in Washington, in the state of Washington, okay? So they want this February 1 deadline submission so they can take another 60 days to have this thing run around the federal bureaucracy while they develop this program. Don, any comments on your observations?
No, that sort of sums it up. I know that, what's his name, Mayfield,
Yes.
Mayfield,
Right.
was real involved in getting this information together so that they would, to me it seems like they were going to get some brownie points if they can get it into Washington on a timely manner. So they wanted to get this whole thing put together so that they could be held up as saying it started in Detroit, you know, pretty much so they can get some fine publicity for it.
Right. That's right. That's a good point. They're driving, it appears that they're driving the effort. to drive this national policy. Okay. So that little background information, then they gave us the language and the marching orders to get this thing put together. Okay. How it affects the contract, and basically the only changes to the contract from last year are the item which is a little more refined description of the airport premises, where it's in bold and it says the turf portion of the RSA, the fee structure, and there may be another area that I can't remember what I have in there that I gave you.
That was the only bold
Dates and
section
times.
that you...
Dates and times.
Oh, yeah.
That would be the modification, okay. So, let me just finish up here on this piece. As part of this compliance standard, they had this federal concept called revenue diversion. I don't quite understand it totally myself, but basically what they want is, you got to identify what you're going to charge for the use of the physical facility itself, and then you have to identify the costs of providing the closure services.
The services, yes.
Which involves the labor that we pay Doug, the rental of equipment, such as the X's we rent from Ashland Airport, the money we spend on postage and paper for mailing out letters, any advertising they would take out, and any other contractual services that would be involved in providing this type of document. Okay. So that's basically how it's broken out. Our task tonight is to set that fee for this contract, and as Mr. Mayfield explained, again, correct me if I misread what he said, that the facility piece, the way I interpret it, is a fixed amount we decide upon.
Yeah.
But the services component could vary depending on what your cost input is.
Right.
Okay.
You don't really know what that's going to be.
Well, we've got it estimated here,
Yeah.
kind of based on past history, and one of the things that we did was track 2011 costs, so we kind of had a number, an idea there. Okay. So let's see what else we have to do here. So I have in the printed document a recommended number. It's only recommended for me, my personal recommendation. The board decides what this is. I don't. So we will open the discussion, I guess, to, well, Davey, let's hear from you. If you have any concerns about verbiage in a contract overall that needs to be altered or changed.
I just note a couple of pieces of language that I would bring to your attention and make
Okay.
some modification. In 1A, the introduction, about in the middle of that paragraph, it says throughout most of the season, the park is able to safely manage ingress and egress of persons and vehicles. So do you guys see where I am? Mm-hmm. Okay. And it says then, however, this is not the case with 3 of their largest events. Instead of saying this is not the case, because that would suggest that they can't safely manage the ingress and egress, I think you should say something like, certain events pose unusual issues. That's what I had written.
Unusual. Okay.
Or substantial issues, or, well, I think unusual.
Yeah.
Certain events pose unusual issues. So that just means that we're trying to address these atypical situations.
All right.
Instead of saying this is not the case.
All right. And that is paragraph 1A.
1A, right about in the middle,
Yes, all right.
where it says this is not the case.
Yes.
You see where that is?
All right, got
Okay,
it.
okay. Then in the second paragraph, on the third line, you're talking about the best interests of the airport, community, and public safety. Why don't we say airport, park, community, and public safety? Because it's actually for the best interest of everybody here.
All right, good.
All right. 2A. It says the unofficial times the airport will be closed. How about saying the tentative times?
All right.
And then item number 5, we have Saturday, August 11th to Sunday, August, that should probably be August 12th. I think that's just a typo.
Which one now?
Saturday, number 5, Saturday, August 11th to Sunday, August 12th.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah, let's see, 2012 Saturday. Yes, correct.
Okay, August 12th.
All right.
And then on the next page, item 4A, the term, that ends also at the end of that sentence, it should say August 12th.
Yes.
Then on the third page, item number 11.
Page 8?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, page 8.
Okay.
Item number 11, we're talking about a park employee who is disruptive and probably obstreperous and, belligerent. And at the last sentence that we're going to ask the park to prohibit this employee, we should be asking him to prohibit the employee from accessing the airport property. And we're not saying that he shouldn't hire him, we're saying that that person should not come onto the airport property. I'm in the last sentence. Upon request of repeated incidents of detrimental conduct, the park shall no longer assign or permit said employee or patron to access airport property.
Okay.
That's what we're going to ask them to do.
Okay. Okay, good.
And then on the page 9, that's paragraph VI, which is 6 in the Roman numerals. Let's see, in the context. This is saying that the things that the park is supposed to do. They're supposed to remove the temporary signage, barricades, and spotlight before the airport reopens. And then it says the signage, barricades, and spotlight must be stored in an area that is approved by the authority. And I don't know why that is. Why do they have to store that in some place that we approve? I was going to delete that sentence.
They can store it on their own property.
Well, the spotlight is theirs.
Yeah.
The signage is ours, and the barricades are supplied by the county. So let's see.
Or is the stuff stored on airport property or on their property?
For example, here's an example.
Why don't we could say that it shall be stored in a secure manner.
Yeah,
That's fine.
Just as good.
Stored in a secured area or in a secured manner. Because I don't know that we have to approve where they store it.
No. But for example, like the national races, barricades are supplied by the county. They're put up on a Friday. They're taken down. They're just laid in the grass. But they need to be put away from the runway so that they don't become a hazard in case someone runs off the runway.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
I'll say secured and safe manner.
Yes, that's good.
All right.
That's it. Then you have, that's it. That's all I got.
Okay. Thank you so much for your work on that, and I'll make those changes and send you the changed copy to your file. All right, so board, what do you want to do now? We have to discuss what we want to put in here for a price.
Well, I think we should change the user fee to $1,700. Leave the service fee as $300 because that's pretty much a known.
Right.
And for a total of $10,000 even for the 5 closures.
Now, there might be plus or minus to that. Maybe we should take a total out. Because again, it could come in less.
Or exceed.
Well, it all depends.
Yeah.
The labor is the biggest piece.
The service fee, you pretty much identified it, saying it could be refunded or it could be billed to the park.
Yes.
So it's just a budget number to get into the contract.
You could say totaling an estimate of $10,000.
Right, that's what I would do.
And then, because then you go on and explain why it's just an estimate.
Right.
Yes, they'll require us to do as we did in 2011 and create another report at the end of how quality is going.
That's your motion, right?
Okay. Is that what your motion is?
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
And Mr. Kelly has seconded. Any further discussion? Do we need to have a separate motion on the fee, or can we adopt the whole contract?
Well, I think you should amend the proposal to include the changes that we talked about,
Okay,
and then someone can move to approve the contract as amended.
so it would be two motions.
Yeah.
All right, we have a motion to accept the amendments to the contract, including the fixing of the fee and the changes to the wording.
But that's not the motion that I made.
All right, will you retract your motion and restate it then? Well, hey, was there a second to it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have to pull a second.
All right, well, that was on the price, right?
Yeah.
Well, we'll just motion on that. All in favor of setting the price as moved, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, same sign. Now, let's take the amendments then as another motion.
I make a motion that we approve the contract as amended.
All right, we have a second.
Second.
All right, Mr. Frankenfield has made a motion, Mr. Kelly a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. Contract portion of the plan is approved. The second part of that is the plan itself. Now, let me get on my soapbox here a little bit about this, and then Dave, if you have some concerns, let's hear them. Let's see where I am on this document. Right. All right, let me just say this. The FAA had the 2011 closure plan in their database to work with. Our letter of October basically triggered their review of that, requesting that we use the same plan. So that plan not only underwent extensive review at the beginning of 2011, but it was also reviewed at the end in that 60-day period. Okay. The FAA also submitted this language, which has been incorporated in the document. And it's pretty clear to me that they're going to take another 60 days to look through this. So I really don't see any reason why, that's my opinion, that we ought to yet drag this through the keyhole and go through it line by line, because they're just going to go through it themselves and come back to us with any changes that they want to make. I think it would be a wasted effort to spend more time doing that. Now, the board may not want to do that, they may want to go through it, in case somebody wants to go through it, that's fine. But my recommendation is we submit it as I have drafted it here. Let the FAA do the work.
I'd like to make a motion that we do submit it as drafted. I've gone through it and I don't see any.
Neither do I. I don't either.
I looked through it briefly. I didn't see any substantive changes, substantive issues.
Well, you must have an older copy, right?
I may.
Yeah.
I do notice that some of these are sample, like the liability insurances. This just says it's a sample.
Yeah, so that should be updated. That's in 2000, that's an old document.
I think it's 2008.
Right. And I noticed that this is just a sample. You would ask for a current one, so that's fine.
Right.
And I noticed also that some of the, the notices, these are like proposed kind of form work, and we would just make sure that those dates are correct also.
Yeah, they're all, I double checked the dates.
Okay.
Unless we'll go back and double. They wouldn't, obviously, at the time they would be mailed, they would be put
Sure.
on letterhead probably, and Doug did that last year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that, other than kind of making sure that once that the form examples are up to date before that they're needed is all,
Okay.
my only comment.
Right. Okay, and then there's some other things in here that are incomplete, just, for board
Number C?
information, and that is the
This
letters.
one?
Where's my,
It's letters to the tenants.
The letters to the tenants are pretty good. They're pretty good.
Well, the thought is that the airport closes and then you've got everything in place. You don't take a lot, the airport's not closed for longer really than you need it.
Right.
Within the half hour, you got all your barricades up. And then they're all taken down quickly.
that taken down is all right, just to put down.
Yeah. I think I read that twice, but I think I understand what that is.
All right. Community support letters are not in here. They're old. They're from the ones that were drafted in 2010, I believe it is. And so, if we go through, we'll need those as submissions. Okay. Any other questions about the document?
All right, I got a motion to submit it as drafted from Don Frankenfield. Is there a second, or are we going to vote on
Mr.
that?
Kelly?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All the same sign. Okay. That's the only items of business we're allowed to conduct. We have some time for public comments. Is the board interested in hearing any public comments? I don't know if that's usually done in a special meeting, but any questions or comments from anybody? Bill, I see your hand.
Obviously, Dennis, in lieu of recent events, I don't feel that there will be a need for us to use the runway,
Okay.
and therefore we will use another method of exiting.
All right.
So I thought, in the interest of fairness, you should hear that directly from me.
I appreciate you coming. I do.
So that's it.
Okay. Well, thank you. I mean, that's your business decision. We're doing this in case something may occur down the road where circumstances change and your situation changes. And also because this is a pilot study that we want to participate in and be involved with the FAA. So we're going to submit the plan as it has been approved by the board. So. Any other questions?
I
Yes.
have a signature on that plan. I have been each year. I'm the first signature on that plan,
On the contract.
on the contract.
Right. So it would be submitted. It's being submitted as blank anyway. It will not be submitted to the FAA with signed contracts. What we'll do is just submit the document with the unsigned contract, uncompleted contract within it. So there's not any liability or responsibility on your part. Is that okay?
Yeah, no, this is the plan that we're hoping they will approve.
Right.
And so it should be blank. You know, this is what our proposal is.
Okay. Other questions?
Nothing other than I think it was just kind of falling that certain individuals decided to leak a sample document to cause such unnecessary turmoil in the community. Never had to, shouldn't have been done. And I believe don't you have internal regulations that would prevent people from releasing sample documents within your board? Shouldn't that be released by your board president or vice president?
Well,
And I also blame, before I finish, I also blame the paper for not corroborating the information, because they're, in the end, the paper is what incited all of this unnecessary turmoil.
Well, the document that was released was my personal work product done on my home computer, printed out on my printer using my paper, and shared as a template document about what a plan would look like when it was completed. And the individual that took that plan and distributed it did not consult with me and ask my permission to distribute it.
Who was that?
I don't believe this is a place to talk about personalities and who's involved with it. I'm talking about the process, and how it got out into the community as an inaccurate, incomplete document, because that's exactly what it was. What was presented tonight was a document for this board to discuss and approve, not that document.
May I ask a question?
Yes,
Dennis, when we met in October in my office
yes.
and we discussed the pricing, it was crystal clear that the pricing would remain unchanged. You said this evening that this document, that these were your recommendations, the decision rests with the board.
Correct.
Why would the recommendation be for an increase when it was agreed in October that there would be no increase?
Well, apparently there...
Let me answer that, please.
Well, this functions as a board. A board. 5 people here. That's why it was said that way. And he was right in saying that.
No, but Dennis said these were my recommendations.
His recommendations.
Why would his recommendations not reflect what was discussed in October? That was simply my question. Why would his recommendations not reflect what was agreed in October?
Because we had discussed it as a board. That's why you have a board here.
Now,
That's it.
Let me explain to you, address the question to me, and I'm more than happy to do that, okay? Bill, I have the board minutes from the November meeting. Where are those? I think what happened, to be honest with you, you came away with one perception, Mr. Silcox came away with one perception, and I came away with a different perception. Okay? And now, that's just truth. Whether, I'm not saying anybody's right or wrong, I'm saying that's apparently what occurred, because if I had my finger on it here a moment ago, I'll read you what was reported to the, Don, you got it in your folder. Let me put my hands on it here, because I just looked at that. That was those October board minutes.
You looking for this one?
No, that's the summary. I just had it here. Someone must have gotten mixed up with a piece of paper and someone grabbed it. Give me the October board minutes.
The board, I believe, is also the 22nd.
Let's see, they would be the October minutes, but they would, let's see, wait a minute.
This is November minutes for the October board meeting, right?
Yes, let me go to those, find, we'll go backwards. Okay, we were just talking about this, yeah. Why can't I put my finger on it? It would have been approved at, the October 18th. It was the October 18th meeting. Let me just see if I can find that. There we go.
Doesn't mean a thing.
This item of new business at the October 18, 2011 board meeting. I provided the date and time to submit temporary closure proposal to the FAA. You listed the dates. These are the official signed minutes. There are two issues to be settled. Requesting the exact same complete closure plan that was conducted this year. This is best approach that works well for both the airport and Summit Motorsports Park. It is not clear if the FAA will approve it, as they suggested alternative ideas in lieu of a total closure last April. And then I went on to talk about reimbursement. The April 2011 agreement was for $2,000 per closure, netting a total revenue of $10,000. However, we gave you credit, we talked about that. I reported the expenses that we incurred for the for the 3 closures, I guess, but for preparation, and I'll quote these minutes. It is not clear from the April meeting, this is April 2011, you wouldn't have been involved in that, that was held downtown Norwalk with the FAA. If the county or Summit Motorsports Park would cover the cost. Mr. Sokol asked the board if the airport should request reimbursement of those costs or request an increase in the $2,000 amount closure payment. The board must consider the overall economic status of the airport. The fee structures in all areas must be analyzed. The FAA view indicated the closure fee was on the low side. Now, I remember this isn't documented, but I had talked about this, and you said, because you're sitting right there, we should discuss that at a later date. So then there was a motion to submit the closure plan. Those are the minutes of the October meeting. Okay. Now, on October 21st, I sent 2 letters out to the Federal Aviation Administration. One was a report of our meeting, review of the 2011 temporary closures of Huron County Airport, reported who was there, closure results. Last, the 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth paragraph on the second page. The matter of appropriate costs for future use of the runway for non-aeronautical events was also discussed. We were in agreement there. The Airport Board President expressed the desire to recover the costs incurred by the airport for the closures in addition to the charges for runway use. I've been consistent on that position. No conclusion was reached on the matter of future charges but the county will look into what it can do to assist with personnel needs. And I remember that statement from Mr. Silcox, okay? Now, this was sent to the county commissioners. They have a copy of this letter, and Mr. Silcox's name is on here, electronically signed. So he's aware of this. It wasn't a November meeting. You're right, it's an October meeting. So I think maybe I came away with a different perception, but I brought it back to the board for discussion here and said that we will discuss it. Action was not taken. It was deferred to a future date. That future date is today. Okay? So that's how we got where we got. I apologize, you know, for maybe misinterpreting the way it went, but I'm not authorized to set prices and make deals. As JW said, it's a board decision, and that decision was made tonight, right here. Any other questions? Okay, thanks for coming. Appreciate your attendance and
Motion to adjourn.
So moved. All right, Dave, you want to?
Thanks for coming. Appreciate you showing us.
No, I went through.
No, this is the.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Sure, no.
It's the winter over the weekend in Milwaukee.
Oh, did you really? I thought we did that. The show came back and about Zook. Yesterday was in Sturgis.
That's Leyland Road.
Here's what I
Here's 20.
Not yet. So she gets her final copy done.
So in fact, they had more clear than what we had until.
Well, this must be, isn't this the airport, you know, this is Route 20, if that's Leyland, that means the airport is off of here, right?
Airport's right here. That weather pattern.
This is all far.
Oh, it's 70, 78 Lord up in the end.
That's why I said.
Well, why is the sun being so
Your line.
we got out of there.
Where's that 2 acre? You see this little notch right here? Okay, the sewer line runs along this border of our property. Right about, well, it's actually further, it's a 20-foot line.
So I was telling him I needed about 30 minutes.
No, just on the outside. And then it goes, the tree line is right here. Okay, it makes this turn right here through this little notch.
Precipitation.
Freeze, why Linder also had.
Then we could use it.
But our question
Froze for a couple days
argument
there.
was made that using the airport was not going to
Warm, so it was greasy on the top.
that would bring the
Hi there,
airport.